All right, guys, let's get started. So welcome everybody to Open Forum today. Are you guys excited about the buyer brokerage agreement? Is that why you're here? Or most of you, I guess, are probably too scared to use it anyway, but it is something I'm hearing a lot from you guys now that it is such a seller's market. I'm hearing you guys showing tons and tons of houses to people, and then they buy a house with someone else because they saw it on Zillow and you didn't answer your phone in that 5 seconds because you're on the other line or whatever, and they got somebody else to show it to them, or they clicked on Zillow, went straight to the listing agent, or whatever happened. But this is the age-old realtor cry of I showed them so many houses and they called me and told me they found something on their own, which means Daryl found something for them because they called Daryl off of his listing or whatever, right? They didn't find something on their own. They went on Zillow and they called somebody else and somebody else helped them. So this is the age-old cry that I get from you guys, and I hear these all the time, especially in this market when it does take so long and you are showing them tons and tons of houses and submitting tons and tons of offers. And yet you guys are not strong enough salespeople. The pain from that is not enough pain to get you to swallow a few seconds of pain to have them sign a buyer brokerage agreement because you're scared they're going to go walk and find some other agent right now. Yet I hear you guys saying, I would trade 20 buyers for one seller right now, right? I see you guys, I see that on Facebook. I hear you guys say that. I get 100 buyers for one seller, right? Because you guys work so hard for these buyers just to meet them and show them and do all this stuff, and to write 1,000 contracts and bang your head against a wall and hear them cry, literally cry to you about how they can't find anything, and they'll cry and you'll be their psychologist. And then they'll call you the next Monday and say, Daryl, you were wonderful. We're really sorry for wasting your time, but we found something on our own. And Angie's over there saying, I can't believe they called off my listing. That's awesome. So, I mean, but this is the kind of stuff that happens. And that's why you need a buyer brokerage agreement, because when they call Angie off her listing, she's going to say, oh, are you guys working with a realtor? And they're going to say, well, oh, there's this guy and he was showing us somehow, made a few offers. Did you sign anything with him? No, just a few offers or whatever, but no. And did you look at this house with him? No. All right, well, let's write it up and see what the sellers say, right? That's how that goes. If they say, yeah, we signed some form that we were going to work with him and blah, 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 then Angie's going to say, well, then have him call me, because she doesn't want the headache of this, right? She's happy to sell her house. She doesn't want the headache of this. So guys, you are so wonderful, such wonderful people, but you are such weak salespeople that you will not get people to sign this buyer brokerage agreement. It is a few minutes of what you guys consider pain, and because you're actually asking someone to do business with you, and it brings you guys, it cements this, and other agents will look out for it because it is a pain. And if you get one of these signed, you're going to end up in front of the board, even if they do this. It is not the most legally binding document in the world. If the buyer comes and says, well, yeah, we signed that with Daryl, but he never returned our calls and he didn't do this and didn't do this, then you're not going to win in front of a judge. Okay. But this is going to keep you out of the board. This is going to keep your clients with you. And this is going to keep other agents from stealing your clients when they ask. And what you guys should be asking, did you sign anything? Because everybody out there's worked with agents now because they made 15 offers. So, but did you sign anything? And you guys know in this market, you've got to make 5 offers with somebody before they realize they can't steal something. They're going to have to pay more than asking, and they're going to have to come up with some cash, and they're going to have to do all the things they have to do to win right now. So, I mean, how many of you guys are getting your first one you put a bid on, or you put an offer in on? Very few, right? So you need these people to continue to work with you. So let's go and look at this. I'm going to screen share. And guys, when I do stuff like this, it's because I'm hearing a lot of crying from you guys on it, and I'm trying to help you with it. We've also had a lot of sellers backing out the last minute, which we'll talk about later, or trying to back out. Let me see if this works. All right, are you guys seeing the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement? Give me a nod if you are. You are? Okay, awesome. Because I'm going to go through this, and what I'm going to do when I go through this is not for the legality of it. What I'm going to do with this is show you how to sell it to people that it's a good thing, because it is a good thing. Don't they need somebody to work that's working for them right now? They need somebody who's actually working for them right now. It is a lot of work. Like I said, you guys would trade 20 of them for one seller. It's a lot of work right now to help a buyer. And then you get railroaded all the way through the process and bullied because you're on the buyer side right now in the seller's market. So let's look at this. Parties, obviously the client's name here, real estate broker and office. Go ahead and put your name here, guys, and then put Florida Realty Investments. So put Ida Santiago, Florida Realty Investments. Term, this agreement will begin on, you guys know the dates. You can make it for whatever date you want, however long you want to work with them, whatever you think it's going to take. Right now, it's going to take a little longer than it would in a buyer's market. So I'd make it, make it 6 months, make it whatever you want. If they tell you that they're 3 months from buying and they're just getting ready or whatever, I'd go ahead and still have them sign this, guys. They're never too far out down the pipeline to have them sign this. And then when they go to a lender, how many of you guys have had, I can only see one of you right now with the camera on, but how many of you guys have had buyers, you send them to, well, you don't send them to a lender, they go to their own lender and the lender sends them to another agent. Does that happen to you guys? It happens. So have them sign this. And then when the lender says, well, you need to use this other, they'll say, well, I already signed somebody. I already signed with somebody. Lenders probably aren't going to know enough to ask them. But this is, guys, this is all just something to help. Do you have, now when they ask the client, and you're going to educate them throughout this document, which we're going to talk about. But now when they ask them, are you working with an agent? They're going to say, yes, they signed something with you. This is cemented a deal, much more than, well, Daryl showed me one property, 3 weeks ago. That's not, I'm working with Daryl. That's Daryl showed me a property. It might have even been his listing, So get this, this is putting it more, making it more official. The type of property. Okay, so this part of when you get to the number 3 here, property, buyers interested in acquiring real property as follows, or is otherwise acceptable to buyer. Type of property. This shows that you've listened to them, guys. This is where you're selling them on that you've listened to them. The type of property. This is where you go, I want a single family residential house. Location, wherever it is, Tampa, Winter Springs, wherever it is, it doesn't matter. But it does matter because you've been listening to them. Price range. What they've told you they want, the highest and lowest that they want to spend. Make sure that they're pre-qualified. Buyer has been pre-qualified, pre-approved. Let's do pre-approved by whomever. You guys know the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved, right? Right now, you need to be pre-approved. You need to have, and a lot of lenders are sending out things we've talked about before with the lenders, where they're sending out pre-approvals that show that they've reviewed all of your documents except for the property and the appraisal, right? So go ahead and get all that stuff done. If you want to win a house right now, let your clients know. This is guys, this is adding value. You're not just a person they're meeting on a Saturday to show them houses. You're teaching them what they need to do in this market to buy a house. And that is to be pre-approved. Go ahead and send all your stuff into the lender. Let them see it all. Let them pre-approve you based on a house under this amount that appraises under this amount or above this amount, right? So that's what you need. Preferred terms and conditions. This is, guys, this is where you write stuff and, they want to move in by whatever. They want a big backyard. They want good schools. They want this. This is just to prove that you listen to them, guys. And you're going to be able to fill this out before you even meet with them, but take a pen when you go as well. In case they tell you more stuff. Buyers always come up with more stuff that they want or they need. In addition, we're going to look back at this. How many of you guys have sold a house or you've shown clients 10 houses that were 3-2s in a certain area, and they start sending you a month later, they start sending you 4 3s in another area that are $100,000 more expensive than what they were looking at before, or vice versa, right? So this is where you go back to, well, let's go back and look at what we were looking for before now. So they don't think, look, I'm not the idiot here. You guys have changed what you wanted. So this is a good time to get that out. And when you sit here and talk to them about that and you tell them we want a 3-2 single family residential, well, we were talking last night and we were kind of looking at some of them on Zillow or whatever, some of the ones you've sent us in your auto search. And I don't know if that's going to be big enough for us. And I know we told you we only wanted to spend, $350, but, we could spend up to $450 if we want to get, oh, well, good. Well, you're going to need to if you want to be, wherever you want to be with whatever size house. All right. So this is where you get all that stuff out of them. Get it out of them now. How many of you guys have lost a sale? Just give me a nod if you've lost a sale or come close to losing a sale because of that, because you've been finding them 3-2 somewhere and they decide they want 4-3 somewhere else and they found it on their own. And you're like, well, what did you find? and they tell you, and you're like, well, that's not even what I was looking for. That's not what you had me looking for, right? So that kind of stuff happens. This is where you kind of flesh that stuff out. Guys, what we're doing with this document is fleshing out reasons we're you know, what are those, the meat things that you, meat cleavers or whatever, you just pound the meat, right? You're fleshing out all the reasons that they might leave you at some point, that they might find something on their own at some point. So let's go down to page 2, but broker's obligations. Broker assistant. Broker will use broker professional knowledge and skills. Guys, I did the one for a transaction broker. You are going to run into, we did the third most transactions in the Orlando area last year. So if you're in the Orlando area, you're going to run into FRI agents out there. We have 500 realtors in the matrix system. So those of you in matrix, that means we're not counting Space Coast up to Jacksonville down to Miami. That's just the Orlando, Tampa, Sarasota, Clearwater markets, all of those. So we have 500 realtors that you're going to run into FRI agents. Most of you have run into FRI agents that you don't know for properties. Okay.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Hey, can we get those kind of stats? Can you send us those stats maybe in an email so we can share them?
Yeah, I'm actually going to put them on our. I'm going to brag about them on our Facebook page.
Okay, cool.
On our company Facebook page, but yes, we will. And guys, I know I haven't told you guys this yet, but we're I might have mentioned it. We're putting together an awards banquet for us as well, so we'll be doing that hopefully next month.
What are you putting together, Brian?
Awards banquet for 2021. All right, guys. So buyer's obligations. You guys read through these. Buyers agrees to cooperate with broker in accomplishing the objectives of this agreement, conducting all negotiations and efforts and locate suitable property only through broker, and referring to broker all inquiries from any kind from any real estate licensees, property owners, or any other source. If buyer contacts or is contacted by a seller or real estate licensee who's working with a seller, or views a property unaccompanied by broker, buyer will at first opportunity advise the seller real estate license that buyer is working with and represented exclusively by broker. This is their obligation to tell people, right? If they wander into that open house, this is their obligation to tell them, yes, I signed something with Daryl last week. Provide broker with accurate information, financial information requested by broker, connection with ensuring buyer's ability to acquire property. Buyer authorized broker to run a credit check and verify buyer's credit information. Being available to meet with broker at reasonable times for consultations and view properties. Guys, you're giving them obligations under this, which is good. You guys think it's bad, but it's good. They're going to see that this is serious. Guys, this is your living. This is serious. You need your buyer. If they want to buy something in this market, especially, they need to cooperate with you. Indemnify and holding broker harmless from and against all losses, damages, costs, and expenses of any kind, including attorney's fees or any liability of any person that broker incurs because of acting on buyer's behalf. Not asking or expecting to restrict the acquisition of a property according to race. They can't break the law. Consulting an appropriate professional for legal, tax, environmental, engineering, foreign reporting requirements, and others specialized advice. So when you tell them to get legal advice, they're going to get legal advice. When they ask you tax questions, you tell them to get tax advice, you're going to get tax advice. This environmental engineering and engineering is for vacant land, typically, unless there's a structural problem with the property. Foreign reporting requirements, that's FIRPTA that you're going to send them to, but that would be more tax advice. That's not just FIRPTA, there's other stuff too, but you're going to obviously advise them to consult a tax professional or a professional in whatever field that is. Upon final execution of this agreement, buyer will pay to broker a non-refundable retainer fee. Guys, don't hold retainers. You have to open we would have to open a non-interest bearing account to hold that. We prefer that you don't do that. Compensation. This is where you put what you're going to get paid. Some of you guys will just put MLS in here, what the MLS offers. I would do 3%. Okay. And then if the MLS is just 2.5 and you're fine with that, let them off the hook for the 2.5. You don't want to charge them, but that's always something. Yeah, I'm supposed to get, but point that out to them. I'm supposed to get 3%. My broker says it. Guys, by the way, your broker makes you have these signs, right? Just say it, my broker requires them. Okay. So your broker makes you get these signed. So your broker requires that you put 3% here, but I'll talk to them if it's only 2.5, and I'll get that done for 2.5. Okay, whatever you want to say, but we require them. Protection period after the termination date. If they try to buy something that you've already shown them, then you still get paid. Early termination. Buyer may terminate his agreement anytime by written notice to broker, but will remain responsible for paying broker's compensation if from the early termination date to termination date plus protection period, if applicable, buyer contracts to acquire a property which prior to the early termination date was found by buyer or called to buyer's attention by broker or any other person. So if they bought anything by broker or any other person, I love that. So if anybody brought anything to their attention and they put it under contract during this time, then they will owe you the money. Broker may terminate this agreement anytime, written notice to buyer, in which event buyer be released from all further obligations under this agreement. Some of you guys have fired buyers before. You're welcome to do that. Broker may assign, and definitely do that if they're violating any of their things above, like discrimination or anything else. Okay. Dispute resolution, assignment. Broker may assign this agreement to another broker. This agreement will bind, and then you're to broker and buyer's heirs, personal representative successors, and assigns. Of course, anybody can get rid of it at any time. Also, you can terminate at any time. All right, here's the broker's relationship. Broker will act as a transaction broker. Broker will deal honestly and fairly, will account for all funds, will use skill, care, and diligence in the transaction, will disclose all known facts that materially affect the value of the residential property which are not readily observable to buyer, will present all offers and counteroffers in a timely manner unless directed otherwise in writing, and will have limited confidentiality with buyer unless waived in writing. All the things that you've agreed to anytime that you do a transaction broker. You have that relationship. Do you guys have any questions on this? It's a very simple document, states what you'll do, states what they'll do. But the important part is while you're talking to them, you're selling them on the fact that you are going to represent them. You go through the broker's obligations. You're going to do all this stuff for them. You're going to do all of this stuff for them. Okay. You're going to use your professional knowledge and skills. You're going to do that and educate them that, guys, look, when you go over this part, you guys are so scared of the compensation. Look, the seller pays for this, guys. You're going to pay for it regardless. Well, the buyer pays for it out of the seller's proceeds, but the buyer is paying for it, right? But the buyer is going to pay that same thing. The listing agent's just going to keep it all. And you can explain that to them. I love it when I'm a listing agent, the buyer comes straight to me. Where's my obligation? Where's my heart? When you guys list a property, is it typically for a friend or family member sometimes, friends, past clients, repeat clients, stuff like that, people you feel pretty close to if they're listing with you, right? Yes, you do. Who do you feel more obligation to? That repeat client / friend / family member, or the bozo who calls in off the street, right? If something goes something's a little bit fishy here or there, and you're getting double your commission if the deal goes through, are you going to kind of, if you're not the most ethical person in the world, are you going to kind of railroad this deal through? A little bit, right? Is the buyer getting the best representation? Let me ask you that. Is the buyer, I know we're all perfectly ethical, but is the buyer getting their best representation? I see some of you laughing. Is the buyer getting the best representation if they're dealing with a listing agent? Or would they be better off dealing with Daryl on somebody else's listing, right? Or going straight to the listing agent? They're better off having their own representation. There's no doubt about that. Is there any doubt in you guys' minds that that's the case? No, right? I mean, anybody speak up if you can. I can only see a couple of your heads. But is there any doubt in your mind that they're getting better representation with a buyer's agent than they would going directly to the listing agent that they don't know? Somebody's responding in chat. Yes, better off. That's right, TC. Better off with Ryan. Ryan wants nothing to do with buyers or anybody. But yes, of course, everybody's better off with me. But so they're better off with that. Educate them as you're going along. Educate them why they need a buyer's agent. Educate them how the buyer's agent gets paid. Just be honest with them. Say, look, I love it when I have a listing and the buyer comes directly to me. It's easy. I make double money, and I make sure the deal goes through. You don't have to say it in those. I mean, you say it in those words. I'm going to make sure the deal goes through. Does making sure the deal go through sound like the best thing for me? Not necessarily, right? So even if you're acting ethically, we make sure deals go through. Yeah, even if I have to give back a couple grand, right? I'm going to make 18 grand instead of the 9 I thought I was going to make. Let's make sure this deal goes through. I'll give back a couple of grand, right? We do that just to appease everyone and make the deal go through. So guys, use this form. Do you guys have any questions on here before I take it off the screen? Any questions on how to use the form or what part of the form means? Because I'm just tired of hearing you guys. I'm tired of you guys going through it. Of hearing you guys cry about how your buyer left you at the last minute and can I still get commission? And the answer is no. If you don't show the property and write the contract, and you don't have one of these things, you can try to take them to arbitration if you want, but you will not win. Okay.
So this form is just nice to have and, show how professional we are. We mean business, but at the end of the day, we are not going to take somebody to arbitration because it's more the hassle and the stress, right?
Well, I don't know. Why is it a hassle and stress to take an arbitration if you've got money coming? Absolutely not. No, I've actually sat through a couple of these. We've been successful. I've sat through 2 of these. We've been successful both times. Once.
Yeah, but in how long will it take? So you have to move on.
Well, first of all, you let the deal close. So if you have a problem with procuring cause, you always let the deal close. You can't blow up the deal. Your number one obligation is we stay out of the way of our customers getting what they want. Okay. We fight about commission after it closes. All right. So
Okay.
never threaten to blow up a deal, never blow up a deal. That's how you get in trouble. All right. Secondly, yeah, this means something because people will take advantage and people will say, I never knew. Yeah, I signed that with Ida, but they told me, some agents will tell them, oh yeah, I'll take care of Ida. Don't worry about Ida. I'll take care of her. And then and they think that you're getting taken care of. I've had you guys, I've told you guys this story before. I wasn't here long, maybe it was 5 years ago. And one of our agents was seen at, and I know who he is. I'm not gonna say he's not in here, but he was, his friend saw him at the movies and said, hey, you guys might have heard this. I haven't told this in a long time, but they said, hey, what'd they say? Like, hey, congrats on that check or whatever. He's like, what do you mean? Oh yeah, I bought that house you showed me. And he was going through all this thing. He didn't know, the listing agent told him that his agent was going to get a check. And oh yeah, we'll pay them. And the guy was like, what? He was at the movie theater and he said, yeah, I guess you got that check. And he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I bought that house you showed me. They told me they were going to send you a check, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. He showed him the house. He wrote a contract, never heard back or whatever. I guess they contacted the buyer directly. So he ended up getting paid because of that. And we didn't even have to go to arbitration. But he saw the guy at a movie theater by chance. Saw the guy at the movie theater and the guy's like, yeah, hey, yeah, congratulations, you got that check in the mail. He's like, what check? So he had no idea. And he did not have a buyer brokerage agreement signed, but he did have he was procuring cause, and the people absolutely lied to the buyer. So they will do that. They will lie to the client and work around you. Guys, this is important to have. Yes, this holds up. And it will hold up in arbitration unless you have done something. If your buyer says the arbitration I have found, they will honor whatever the client wanted, whatever the consumer wanted is what they're going to honor. If they have a legitimate complaint about you, then they're gonna toss this out. But if they said, yeah, I thought I was working with Ida and I told them about Ida and they said she'd get paid or we'll take care of her or whatever, because they don't know any better. That's why you've got to educate them with this. The most important part is not even that they've signed it. The most important part is that you've educated them on how buyer brokerage works. Okay, that is the most important part of this. Yes, get them to sign it. And when people sign something with you, they feel a bond with you. Okay, you guys are scared of this. It is the opposite. It actually helps you. And you know what, guys? It is okay to tell people no. Can I get this house for this money in this area? It's okay to say no to people, right? You're setting those expectations up front. Would you rather be told no now, or would you rather be told no after scrounging around for 3 months and submitting a bunch of offers and this and that? It's okay to tell them no when they want something. That is sales 101. When you create, how many of you guys have a story about a good friend of yours, or maybe even a partner that you didn't like at first. When I met so-and-so, I didn't like them, but I really came to really like them.
Sorry, Ryan, can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
So as a realtor, how can we end this agreement like before, say, I want to fire a buyer, which most realtors don't want to do? How do you end it? Like, what's the right way of doing that?
Tell them it's not you, it's me. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. There's no right way to do it. I mean, what do you? I mean, why are you firing them? Just out of frustration, or did they do something, or
No,
are they treating you poorly? There's a lot of different ways.
no, I just I had this incident happen, and this is like 2 months back, so I stopped working with them. They were referred by an acquaintance. They basically like moved from out of state, and starting off, things seemed to be fine like for 15 days, but after a little bit I realized that the wife was borderline obsessed with Zillow, and no matter how much I tried to steer them to just see the properties that match their criteria, they were making me run like they wanted to see like 5 or 6 homes in a week, all over the Tampa Bay area. So I did that for 2 months, and it was causing me to burn out, and we just had to part ways. So luckily for this particular, I hadn't offered them to sign anything, but this is just like given it, like in the future, if there is a situation like this where, oh, by the way, they were very confidently going about telling like they were pre-approved for 600K close to, but they would not send me a pre-approval letter. So it kind of like 15 days in like showing homes, there were bells ringing in my mind all the time. So I had to let them go. But yeah, just in the future, if there is the agreement signed, then what's the right way of, say, parting ways? I don't know.
You can terminate the agreement and write. All you have to do is terminate it in writing. It releases everybody of their obligations. That's
so is
perfectly
there like
fine.
a form to do that, or is just like send an
No, you
email
can
and that's it?
send an email. Don't do it by text. Send
Oh,
an email.
okay.
But
Okay.
the correct thing to say, guys, is seems like we aren't exactly sure what we want.
Mhm.
I have not seen when you guys have your pre-approval in writing and you're
Mhm.
more sure of what you want,
Mhm.
let's get back together. Let's give it a little while and
Mhm.
get back together. You're not
Mhm.
completely doing that. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and cancel our buyer brokerage agreement in case you guys want to work with someone else.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what else you could do.
Yeah, I mean, they just they are, so the wife in particular, she was really entitled. For some reason, she was under the impression, so whichever home she wanted to see and at whatever time was convenient to them. Oh, by the way, they weren't like willing to work around my timing pretty much most of the time. So she would be like sending me texts all day, and then at like 4 p.m, oh, get me an appointment at 5 p.m. And I'm like, that's not up to me. It's up to the
Right,
listing agent to
right.
approve that.
You got to set
And this,
expectations.
yes, this
Like it's
happened multiple times, and I had to
okay.
like repeat myself over and over. But she was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to bother you till you quit. So this went on for like 2.5 months. And then I had no choice but to, okay, I mean, I can't be like showing you homes in Lithia and then Northwest Lee Chapel. And then they're like, oh, this home just came up on Zillow in Newport Richie. I want to go see it. And any time of the day, they would be like, I just want to see it. And it's your job to show me the house.
Okay. Yeah, Palik, you're going to run into, I tell people this all the time. You're going to run into crazy people in everything, and entitled people in any walk in life, any walk of life. If you go to the mall right now and you see the next 10 people, they're going to be a certain percentage of them a certain way. And it's the same way with buyers, guys. It's the same way with you guys. Some of you guys are crazy too. Any group of people is going to have crazy people or entitled people or pushy people or really laid back, cool people, or all kinds of people who act like they have more money than they have, people who act like they have less money than they have. You're going to run into all of that stuff. People that are super nice and become your best friends, and people who become your worst enemies. People who seem really nice up front, people who seem like real jerks up front and end up being your best friends, like we were just talking about. You're going to run in the whole mix of people there. It's just like any other group of people, buyers and sellers and everybody else. Buyers are liars, sellers are liars too. Everybody's liars. Everybody's thinks that theirs is better than everybody else, even though their neighbor sold for 400. They think theirs is worth 500 because you know, they've got better flooring, you know, whatever it is. So it just is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. You got to get rid of people sometimes, just like you do in your life. Get rid of toxic people, and you're going to run into all kinds of people. So best of luck on that. Break up with them however you have to. Suggest that you see other agents, whatever you want to do.
You know, Palak, that's I guess learning experience. And from what you mentioned or sharing in here, there were some red flags from the beginning. They did not want to share with you or giving you their pre-approval letter. And maybe for next time you want to have that in your hand, because that way you will know what they qualified for, and in accordance show them the houses that they qualified for, right? So they were
It's
from
just,
the beginning, they were in control, not you.
It's just that I just choose to put up with them
wanted
just
to-
because they were referred by
Yeah, you
like
want to be
someone I knew.
nice.
So it's just, I just did it because I didn't want to upset like my other clients, because they're the serious kind that are still looking at homes. But then these people, she is like withholding information from the start. And oh yeah, they toured a home because they like a home twice. And then they told me like, go ask the listing agent if the seller is going to take off like 80,000 off of the asking price. I'm like, I didn't even have words to explain them, because we went over the market situation that was going on like multiple times, and they still have had like no realistic expectations. So it's just at that point I realized, okay, I'm just wasting my time like driving them around. It's just better to let them go. I didn't have any other thoughts going on.
Okay,
Ivy here. I want to just mention a good rule of thumb, at least that's what I do. If the buyer will not provide me with a pre-qualification or pre-approval letter by the second showing, I just stop, and you can feel free to do that.
Okay, I'll keep that
So
in
you
mind.
don't go
Thank
for
you.
2 months running around with a person that you don't even know if they qualify.
Evilise Palak, Florida Realty Investments requires a pre-approval before showing a house.
Okay,
Correct,
I'll
you
keep
don't
that in
wanna
mind.
show, you don't want to
If
show
you-
a house without pre-approval, because they're gonna get excited about something that they don't even qualify for. And
Right,
I don't want to waste my time and my gas.
Yeah, you
Well,
need
they're
to
not,
make
these
sure
people are gonna
they're
get excited about
qualified.
anything. So Palak, also, this is a good time to pick another realtor that maybe you dealt with before that you didn't like, and refer these people to them and get a referral fee if they ever buy something.
Yeah, I did offer them to
Okay,
like, okay, can I find you another realtor? And they were like, no, don't worry about it. I'll find
No,
someone else.
no,
And
Palak,
I'm like,
no.
okay.
Yeah, this is where you say, man, I love working with you guys, but I've got this thing I got to do in Saudi Arabia for the next couple of months, or wherever, make up a country that you got to be in the next couple of months. I got to be somewhere.
That's so funny.
And so they're going to take good care of you. All right, let's move on from that. You guys can just do whatever you want to do when you get rid of them. Just be professional and do what you want to do. Okay. Any other questions on that? Let's talk about if you have any questions on the buyer brokerage agreement. I see the same faces that I saw before we started. You guys don't seem to be believers in this thing. You've got to use it, guys. You will get burned. It will hurt you, and you will cry to me or someone else. Now you won't cry to me because I've already warned you about it. You know you're going to hear I told you so. You'll cry to somebody else about it, and I don't want to see that. I want to see you guys be successful and not lose out on 5, 10, 15 grand here and there once a year. You're losing out on people because you're doing this. You're not using this. This is strong, guys. This is a good thing, and I don't know why people don't use it. It is.
Sorry, I have another question. How is there a way for us to like, I don't know, is there a feature on the MLS or somewhere like to see if a buyer or seller already has an agreement signed? Because it's from one of the recent phone calls. Actually, I got like 2 days back. So this particular person called Nikita, she called me and she's like, oh, can you give me 50% of your commission, like right from the start? I'm like, excuse me, like, do I know you? And she's like, oh, can you write me an offer on this home? So that's where I kind of like got suspicious. So I asked her like, have you already seen the house? And she's like, yeah, I've already seen the house. Like, But I found an agent online somewhere, and they showed me the house. But if you are the one to give me like 50% of your commission, then I will have you send in the offer. So I had to like explain it to her that there's something called procuring clause. So you just can't, do that to people. But she could have lied. Is there a way to find out if someone has an agreement signed with another realtor?
You know what, Pollock? And the reason we're having this discussion is because you can do that. If she doesn't have a signed agreement with the other agent and the other agent did not submit a contract for her on this house, then you can steal that client. That's why you don't, that's why you get these signed. So you don't be the one who shows it. And then they call Daryl and say, Daryl, will you give me half my commission back? And Daryl says, for spending 10 minutes writing a contract? Absolutely. Right.
So, but
Daryl's going to say, Daryl's going to say, because he's a good agent, because all of you guys are, he's going to say, did you sign something with somebody? Did you guys send in an offer? They're going to say, no. Did you sign something with Pollock? No, we never signed anything. We just looked at the house with her.
But if they lie about it, if they have actually something signed and then I'm unknowingly sending in the offer, wouldn't that cause like a dispute?
Yeah,
like
if
later
they
down?
had something, so in that case, let's say that you showed them the house, right? And then they called Daryl because they thought they could get half their commission back from Daryl. And Daryl says, did you sign something? They say, nope. Did you send an offer on the property? Nope. Well, who showed you the this lady we found online? They're not going to say your name. They're going to say some lady we found online showed it to us.
Exactly.
And Daryl's going to say, well, did you sign something with her? Nope. All right, well, I'll do it. And then when it comes out later and you end up talking to them and they say, oh yeah, we ended up buying that house that you showed us, or that, or you find out one way or another that they bought that house, and you say, well, you signed a buyer brokerage agreement with me, and you called Daryl, you called Daryl's broker, right? So you're going to end up talking to me or Carissa, and you're going to say, I had a deal and your agent stole my client and blah, 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 blah. And we can't stop the deal. Daryl can't stop the deal at that point. You can't stop the deal at that point. The consumers, both the seller and the buyer, are going to get what they wanted out of this thing, the thing they agreed to. And you're going to take Daryl. This is where you win in arbitration because the people lied. And then Daryl has to admit, yeah, I did it for half the commission and blah, blah, blah. They called me and told me. So Daryl ended up working for free and you're going to get at least most of the commission. They might give Daryl a referral for working the deal. That's it. But the arbitration is completely up to the board how they split the commission. But in that case, Daryl would get, at best, I would say, a referral. And it's not his fault that the client lied to him. It's his fault that he's a little bit scummy, taking half the deal.
It's like the second or the third time that I have these people, like random people who are like asking for a percentage. And then I ask them, like, have you signed anything at all? And they're like, oh, I don't remember. I have no idea. Are you running
ads for giving half your commission back or something?
Yeah, she like right off of the bat, she told me that she found my number on the internet. I don't know how and where she found it, but she's like, can you give me half of the commission? All you have to do is write up an offer. So that's where I kind of like, I'm like, first off, how did this person get into that property? Like I asked her, like, did you go to the open house or someone took you there, like another realtor? So that's where I just didn't feel comfortable.
That's great. Those are all great questions, but this is exactly why you get a buyer brokerage agreement. And if she lies to you that she did it with somebody else, then maybe you work the deal and you just get a referral fee or whatever. But this is why you ask, guys.
So in given the circumstance, like if let's assume she has a buyer brokerage agreement already signed with someone else, she's lying, and then I ask her to sign another one with me, saying it's I don't know, it's like a requirement by my brokerage, or it's just a sign.
It'll help you a little bit with arbitration, but it's not gonna. She found, as you read in this document that I just read you, if she finds anything during her agreement with that other agent, even if the other agent didn't show it to her, then she still owes the other agent commission.
Okay, got you. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Thanks.
Get these signed is what I'm telling you. Get these things signed so Daryl doesn't steal your client for half price. Daryl's the one you got to watch out. I'm kidding. But guys, on a different note, should you take a client that calls you like that and do that?
No. Well, you can, but it's a red flag.
It's a little fishy, isn't it?
It's a big red flag.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel guilty about taking up a client like that because someone else just spent like 6 months of their time, like showing them homes. And then I would feel really bad taking their earnings, like putting it that way. I don't know. I feel guilty.
Okay,
There's
well,
a
guys,
lot of
you know what,
scams.
it's a good thing here. My broker needs to know who your agent was. And when you
Mhm.
find out, you call them and then they tell you, this lady is crazy. And I've been working with her for 3 years and she's put in 1,000 offers and all of her offers are, she won't go to, she wants 30% off of asking price and blah, 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 right? So tell them that, tell them your broker, guys, use your broker. Carissa is a terrible person. Use her for all of this stuff that you guys don't like to say.
Yes,
Use
yes.
Carissa.
Blame the broker.
Don't use my name. Use Carissa and say, she needs to see this. She needs a pre-approval. She won't let you sell a house without one. She won't let you show a house
You
without
know
one.
what? There's a lot of scam out there, and that sounds like it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that that's a scam. I think that's someone who has done that before, or their friend has done that before, where they just call and some agents will just say, yeah, I'll write an offer and take, I mean, what's this $1 million house? Would you write an offer for 15 grand? Yeah, a lot of people would. That's people's eyes are open, and now that's not $2,500. Now that's 15 grand. A lot of people are like, well, I guess I could work with somebody like that. It's a little different
So
story.
yeah, I have I heard from an acquaintance that this is something happened. Like some of the agents in the area, they kind of like advertise themselves as part-time agents, like looking to make money on the side. So they would ask the buyer, like, go find a house yourself. We'll work out a deal. Like I'll give you a part of my commission. And then the half is mine. And then everyone goes home happy. And that's where these buyers go around like looking, wasting time, I guess, of the other agents. And then when time comes to make an offer, they go with that discount person. I don't know how else to put it. They just go with that part-time person who is advertising themselves like that. And I don't know if it's helping. I have no idea how people can do something like this or say
Okay,
something
yeah.
like this.
Well, guys, you're going to find that, and you're going to see, I mean, it's in people have it, the handwritten signs that they put at intersections that say 1% real estate agent and, all that kind of stuff. And typically those come from 100% brokers. We do not have any of people doing that out there, but typically it's from 100% brokers because they get all, I mean, at least they get the whole 1%. But yeah, the people out there doing business for their advertising discount. I mean, that is their right to do it. Just like I could come, I can come mow your grass for $5 a month instead of 100, but you can get what you pay for. So, I mean, it is what it is. If they want to work for nothing, they can work for nothing. If they want to, I'm sure their service is not top notch, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do it by volume. It's absolutely legal. And if they want to give people half their commission back, that's absolutely legal. Some people give their broker half their commission. So, it's absolutely legal to do whatever you want to do, guys. It's strangely, we don't have that here. We have people doing 20 and 25% for hometown heroes and, first responders and stuff like that. Perfectly legitimate. And you're perfectly welcome to do that. But that's seems a little more upstanding than what you're talking about. But that's who's out there, guys. And that's why you want these buyer brokerage agreements signed. I don't care how scummy they are. You've been showing somebody $1 million houses and then somebody gets the offer to give them half of their $30,000 commission. And they're like, oh, I can do that for writing a contract. Absolutely. And
Hey,
then
Brian,
there goes your
question.
year that you've put into finding this $1 million house. Yes, Ida.
When the 1% are advertised, isn't that when they just list the property on MLS? But the owner will have to do the showing and the paperwork. Isn't that how it works?
I have no idea. They're all different. They're all different.
All right.
There's
Because I know I've seen
there's
those.
the
It's crazy.
1% guys, and there's all kinds of stuff out there. And some of them will do it on the buyer side. If it's 2.5%, they'll give you 1.5% back. They just work for 1%, and they'll give you the rest back and stuff like that. So they just work for 1%. So if they sell a $400,000 house, they make $4,000, and then split it with their broker.
Do you do like a Hometowns Heroes credit? Does it show on the closing statement or just you just reduce the commission? Like how does the
if you're doing on the buyer side, you would show it on the it's a credit to the buyer on the HUD. settlement statement. If you're doing it on the seller side, you just reduce commission. You would just say, you know, instead of 6%, I'm going to do 5% or 5.25% or however the math works out.
Okay,
And we're going to offer 3 to the other side, and I'm doing mine for 2.2 or whatever.
okay,
Because that money never exists. And if you do it on the settlement statement, it never exists for other purposes. It's just less money they have to bring to closing. Any other questions or comments on that? So let's move on to Jika. Great question. I talk about this a lot, and I'd love to cover it again. Who can you pay commission to? Who can you give commission to? You can give commission. We can, as a broker, and you're always dealing with the broker's money, right? We can give commission, obviously, to our own agents who signed an independent contractor agreement with us, which is all you guys. We can pay another brokerage, not the agents for another brokerage, but another brokerage that they can disseminate the money. And we can pay any party to the transaction that we're working on. Any party to that transaction. Can you credit, if you're representing the buyer, can you credit the seller? Yes, they're a party to that transaction. Okay, doesn't have to be your client. You can credit any party to that transaction with your commission. All right. So yes, it can be an unlicensed person. Now, if your pool guy tells you his cousin wants to buy a house and you represent his cousin, you can't pay the pool guy. All right. You want to buy him an extra little Christmas present or something for being cool, that's fine, but you cannot pay him 25% of the commission or anything like that. Okay, unless he's a licensed agent, which in Florida he probably is. Everybody else is. So, but you can't just pay your friends for sending their friends unless they're a licensed agent. Okay, they have to be active and licensed. They could be on a referral brokerage. They don't have to be a realtor, and obviously they wouldn't be sending you their friend if they were a realtor. They'd be helping them. But if they can be active and licensed. If they are sending you their friend and they are a realtor, then it's probably a deal like Palak had, and they're trying to get rid of them. So be careful of that. You probably don't want that client. So you cannot pay them. Got it. If it is part of the deal, they can get it. If not, no. Yes, correct. If they are unlicensed, you can pay them if they're a party to that transaction. Only that transaction, not the transaction you did last month with somebody else. Only that transaction. All right. Any other questions or comments on that before we get into sellers who have been trying to back out because they can't find another house or because of this or that?
Sorry, I have one more.
Yes. Okay. Two. Go ahead. Alec first, and then Alice.
Okay, so I've had 3 buyers that I had to rebate a part of my commission, like in the past couple of months. So these people, when they start out, they go to new construction communities by themselves, and then they spend like maybe a couple of months with me, like looking at resale homes, finding options. And then because there were wait lists with multiple builders, a couple of months in, the builder calls them like, hey, it's your turn to sign the contract. So that's when these buyers come back to me at the very end, and they say like, hey, can you rebate a part of your commission? Because, you know, you don't have to do any work. The sales consultants are going to be doing all the paperwork. You didn't even have to show us the house. It doesn't really matter. Like, I already spent like 3 or 4 months of my time. And at that point, it like kind of like really sucks to let them go. So they just, I don't know, they make like the situation work in their favor. I don't know. I'm just curious, like, has anybody ran into a situation like this? Like, is there another way to deal with these kind of people?
You're lucky that you're not getting cut out of the deal, because if you don't go the first visit,
Exactly.
usually they don't honor that.
It seems
Yeah.
it seems like you have 2 choices here, yes or no. And no sounds like
No
it pays you
means-
nothing. And
Yeah,
yes
I
sounds like it
don't
pays
make
you half.
anything. I don't make anything after 4 months of my work. So whatever little I'm making, I'm just taking it. And it's what I'm worried about is these people are just going to refer or I don't know, give me a bad rep like down the line. It's kind of like they would advertise me as like a discount person.
No, absolutely not, because you're going to say, wow, you people are so special. I'd be happy to do this for you, but only because you guys are awesome and we've worked together so long. I don't do this for anybody else.
Okay.
That's what you say.
Okay.
They're so special. And You should have had a buyer brokerage agreement with them to start with. I don't know if I've mentioned that today, but you should have had a buyer
Yes.
brokerage agreement with them to start with. And the builder would have asked them that, or should have asked them that. And if not, you could have gone to the builder and gotten some resolution out of that. Okay,
Yes.
if things had gone sideways. I want to answer one on chat and then we'll get to Malvis. Is there a third page? I had it previously printed online referring single agent notice 12 to 14. Yes, this is the buyer brokerage agreement, Lisa. This is the transaction broker one. That's why it doesn't have a single agent notice. Because we do run into a lot of FRI agents out there. It's better just to do that. Otherwise, technically, if you do the one as a single agent notice, then you're with a single agent, then you're going to have to update them, even if it is not your listing. And it may be Edul's listing and you don't even know Edul. You only know him from seeing his beautiful face on the Zoom. You don't even know him, but we are still a transaction broker because we are both with the same brokerage. It's done by the broker, not the person. So if Juliana sells one of Mike's listings, we are the transaction broker, okay? It's done by brokerage, not by the person, okay? So do everything as a transaction broker. You guys are gonna run into, we have several of them every month where both of you guys, both agents who they're not teammates or anything, they just happen to run into each other. Have you guys ever run into FRI agents out there? Raise your hand if you have run into FRI agents out there. There you go. You're gonna run into them. Okay, so Malvis, you had a question.
Yes, you are representing the buyer. Buyer is having a hard time finding a home. I heard this in a podcast that I listened to, but I don't know how it is in Florida. You mentioned that you can give commission or whatever as a realtor to any party in the transaction, but can a buyer pay the part of the seller's closing cost when
Malvis.
they present an offer? Let's say I am the buyer.
Hold on, stop.
I'm having a hard time finding. Yes, sir.
Can the buyer pay what? You coming in and out. Can the buyer pay what?
Oh, sorry. Can a buyer offer the seller to pay some of their closing costs? I heard this on a podcast, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. A buyer can offer a seller anything they want. There are two people out there. They can offer them a herd of goats. They can offer them whatever they want. It's whatever they want to do, they can give them. Absolutely. It's none of our business. I mean, we have to, we write the addendum adding that to it, but it's none of our business. They can do whatever they want. They're not licensees. They're not restricted by anything.
They're paying over appraised value. So are they giving the sellers money anyway? Same thing.
Appraised value. Stop acting like appraised value means anything to anyone other than a lender. I hate appraised value. I hate it. I hate it. It is not a real term. All it is it should be an internal document for a lender just to see what they'll pay. I hate appraised value. It means absolutely nothing. Market value is all that matters. So if market value is $400,000 and they want to give them $400,000 and $20,000 worth of goats, they can absolutely do it. Whatever it is. All right, whatever's in their pocket, they want to give them my chapstick, whatever's in their pocket, they can give them whatever they want.
Just to get a house.
Right.
I was just curious because I've never heard of that before, and I was just curious.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just had an offer on a multiple offer situation where which is completely fine. I'm just letting you know, the seller or the buyer was going to pay like $5,000 over appraised value. And then the real estate agent offered to pay $2,500 of the seller's title insurance policy, I think, something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. A lot of buyers are just taking over title. A lot of them you're seeing want to pay for the title and stuff like that. We're seeing that on the back end when we're chasing down checks and stuff like that, it was not even the listing agent's selection. It was a buyer's selection of where to do the title because they're paying for it. We're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of buyers paying for a lot of stuff. Now in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, when it's a buyer's market again, you'll see sellers throwing in the goats, take the house, take the everything involved, and I'll leave my boat in the garage, take the whole thing, just please take it. Right. So, and inspections, I prefer for the part of doing business, I prefer a seller's market because everything just seems to go through inspections. People just wave through everything.
Yeah.
And it's a buyer's market. You guys remember, they pick apart inspections. They want this fixed and that's fixed, and everything takes more time. And you got to get a bunch of estimates, and you got to get a bunch of repairs, and you got to do all this stuff. That's what's going on. Tammy, Ida has a question for you. What was the seller agent paid? I don't know what that means. Ida, you're on mute.
The seller's agent, 2.5%.
But what's
The
it that?
the listing agent or the buyer's
But what-
agent?
No, the listing agent, what was it that she paid for?
No, the buyer's agent offered to pay as part of the negotiation, that their buyer was paying 5,000 over appraised, and then that buyer's agent offered to throw in 2,500 towards the seller's title policy.
Yeah.
So like a $7,500 credit, basically.
Yeah, you can give to the, so he's really giving to the seller. So yes.
He's giving up some of his commission, basically $2,500 he's thrown in the pot.
But it's not a pot. He's actually giving it to the seller because that's the seller's obligation. But
Yeah.
to make the illustration, yes, the buyer's agent can give to the seller. All right. Any other
Thank you. Good
questions
to
or
know.
comments? Sellers backing out. Guys, they're responsible for all kinds of stuff when they back out. So a buyer puts in their deposit, their earnest money deposit, right? Within 3 days or however it works on whatever deal. You can change that, by the way, on the contract, just so you guys know. But the buyer puts that money in. That is their stake. That is their skin in the game, that I'm going to close this deal, provided my contingencies work out, right? The seller is obligated, can only work one deal at a time. I have this going on with you guys too. You can only counter one deal at a time because you're literally offering your property. You can only sell the same piece of property twice. It is illegal to have two of them. Some of you guys have gotten away with it before, countering more than once. It is perfectly fine to say highest and best by 2 o'clock, whatever you want to do. That's fine because you're not making a direct, but if you have 2 contracts and you make direct counters to each one, if you come up to 420,000, I'll sell it. If you come up to 420,000, I'll sell it. Cannot do that. What if they both come up to 420,000, right? So you cannot do that. So what you do is you say, if you come up to 420 in the next hour, find out what your client says in the next hour, then we'll sell it to you. And if not, we're going to move on to the other offer. Okay. Otherwise, highest and best is very safe to do. Say, look, we've got 2 of you guys, whatever you want to say. You don't have to tell them how many there are. We have multiple offers. Give us your highest and best, or let me know if what you've already sent is your highest and best, and we'll have an answer for you in an hour. Okay. As soon as you send it in, have them to us by 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever time. All right. Enough of that. So that is how it works on the buyer side. The seller is obligated to sell to whomever they sign with. Okay. The seller cannot back out without facing serious consequences. Always consult an attorney for this. I am not an attorney and every deal is different, but a seller can be sued for specific performance. They have to sell if they've agreed to this. Can they get out of it? Of course they can, for money. They're going to have to pay all of the buyer's expenses, the inspection, the appraisal, the this, the that. If the buyer has incurred more expenses by selling their house in Georgia and moving down here, and they've got trucks, and now they're going to be in a hotel for 6 months while they try to find a new house, and blah, 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 right? All these things are going to add on, plus their attorney fees and everything else that they have to go through. All right. Those are all things to consider for the seller. That is not your job to tell them. You can tell them things you've seen before and what your broker says is probably happening, but you are not an attorney, and you need to slip that into end of every sentence you tell them. I am not an attorney. Please contact your attorney. I have one, but that we recommend, but you're certainly welcome to work with anyone you like. On google.com, you can find several. All right. So make sure that they know there are serious consequences though for that. Not that you're trying to bully them into it. Make it very clear. They need to talk to an attorney. And sometimes there are some kind of extenuating circumstances that an attorney will find favorable, or maybe that attorney just wants to bill them and say, bring it on, sue us, whatever. There's nothing in your control at that point. If a seller tries, whether you're representing the seller or the buyer, if a seller tries to back out, there's nothing you can do. Buyers backing out, we can handle pretty easily, right? We work it out with the cancellation. They either get their deposit back or they don't. They fight for it, they don't, whatever. But a seller backing out, that is an attorney issue and you are out of it. Okay. You refer whichever is your client to an attorney. A lot of times you guys have the crazy client, the seller who does not want to back up. Sometimes they're not crazy. They just don't have anywhere to go. They literally can't get out of their house by a certain time. Maybe they don't have money for a hotel. They don't have whatever. In that case, they need to close and have money for the hotel, but you'll find all kinds of stuff. So they need to contact an attorney. Okay. But yes, so you know, they are going to be responsible for all of the buyer's expenses and sometimes punitive stuff, or the buyer can, they typically just decide to sell the house. That is 9 times out of 10, they decide to go ahead and sell the house. They don't end up selling, but I have seen them write $25,000 checks to send the buyer away. If they're doing it because they got a better offer later, or they think it's worth more now, they will not be seen favorably by a judge and they need to go ahead and sell probably. Or if it's worth it, if it's a, the one that we saw them write a $25,000 check for was we had the seller who got a better offer. And so they just did it as a business deal. They wrote them out, they got them out for 25 grand and they sold it for 50 grand more. Just a business deal, so that happens. Any questions on that?
I have a question, but not necessarily on that. So I'm going on a listing or an initial meeting somebody, and it was a result of me selling a house in that neighborhood. And that deal's closed. Am I allowed to disclose, like, as like a demonstration? Are you allowed to reveal how that an offer was and how it ended up? Like, we listed it for this, I got this offer, but it appraised at this, and it sold at this, because the whole transaction's done.
You can do anything that's truthful and helps your client.
Okay.
Yeah, don't give names. Don't say,
Yeah.
Susie Jones tried to buy this, and
Right.
don't do that. But yeah, anything that helps your client. TC, does this include vacant land? I have a case for my client buying a vacant land, and the closing day the seller canceled the contract. Yeah, it's actually more so for vacant land, I would say, because there's not any kind of homestead thing. I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine it's much easier to get them this specific performance on a vacant piece of land they do not live on. So yes, I would definitely consult an attorney about that. Absolutely, have your buyers consult an attorney, assuming that it's not a $5,000 piece of land that they're going to spend $10,000 on an attorney for. But if it's that, and the seller will end up, again, not an attorney, but oftentimes what we see is that the seller has to pay the loser has to pay the winner's fees, legal fees. So it's absolutely worth chasing in that case, if that's exactly what you're telling me is exactly what happened. And that's, again, guys, make sure you're getting all sides of the story and everything before you do it.
Ryan.
Hi, Carolina.
Hi, how are you? I wanted to double check. I know I had an experience with my nephew who called me about his in-laws backing out on a deal. Can you give me an example of why a seller would do that? I mean, I'm a little confused as to why people are backing out.
Okay.
If they want to sell, then I don't understand why they would back out.
I think you missed the part about where we have crazy people in every group of people. I mean, it happens, but also they get, no, I did mention a couple of reasons. One is they can't find anywhere to go. They thought they were going to have somewhere to go, and they can't find anywhere to go because their deal fell apart, or they never found something that they thought they would because some agent told them, oh yeah, I'll find you something, no problem. And you guys know how that works in this market. Another reason is they get a better offer. They refuse to close because after they accepted your offer, somebody else dropped one in their lap a week later, or 2 days before closing, said, oh, I would have paid you $1 million for that, and they're only paying you 800,000, whatever it is.
Okay.
So there's lots of reasons that people back, and sometimes they just change their mind, or they go and some people are just crazy. I mean, you never know.
And in this market, when you list the house, I think at the listing appointment, you should stress that if you put your house for sale, you are legally obligated to sell your house. And if for some reason you don't, you run the risk of being sued. I mean, they're going under contract.
Do that. Definitely have that conversation. Absolutely.
Yep.
And if they don't have any contracts, Ryan, or any offers, can the seller So if a seller puts a house for sale on the market and he doesn't receive any offers whatsoever, or are under contract whatsoever, they can pull it out when they want, right?
Of course. Yeah, you're not obligated until you sign a guys, that's what's called a contract. It's an offer until the seller executes it, then it's a contract. A contract is a real legal document. When it's an offer, you can write an offer on a napkin, right? But a contract, when we write these contracts that they allow us to write, we are not attorneys, but they allow us to write these pre-approved contracts by the Florida Association and the Florida Bar. That's why they called them FAR Bar, because they're pre-approved where any monkey can fill out 15 blanks on there and make a contract out of it, right? So that's all we're doing. And that brings me to my next point, which was not on the agenda, but it's a little bit of a bug for me. Don't write books in the additional terms. You don't need to explain why anything is happening. You don't need to explain anything other than the actual term that is changing, and make it as simple as possible. Some of you guys think you're Matlock, and some of you guys think you're Shakespeare. You're neither one. You do not need to write a book in this additional terms. Very simple stuff, nothing fancy. I don't need to know. They wanted, we had recently someone wanted to extend the inspection period because they didn't believe the first inspector did a good job and blah, blah, blah. Don't care why. Just say that was on an addendum. I don't care why. Just say we're extending the inspection period for 3 days, right? It's because they're going to get another inspection. You don't need to know that. Just we're extending the inspection period for 3 days. All right. Very basic stuff. You can, I wouldn't mind you putting for the purpose of getting another, for purpose of getting an additional inspection. That's fine. If they want to check the roof, they want to check whatever, that's perfectly fine. I might put that in there. I would put that in there because that way you say, yeah, we were trying to schedule an inspection, another inspection as per the addendum, and you guys wouldn't let us in, whatever it is, right? So that way you're kind of covered on that. That was the purpose for doing it. So, but your client can always back out, right? But now they're wasting money on inspections. Do not write books in there. Do not write why, how, we want 3 more days for the inspection period so the buyer's sister can come down and check out the house. We don't need any of that, okay? Just the facts. Make them
Question. I have another
Yes.
question. So I just went under contract on a house. It's only 3 years old. It's got all these crazy peaks and angles on the roof. But it's a cement, I think it's cement tile roof. It's not really the rounded clay.
Is it slate? Is it slate? Is it the square?
Slate or not? I don't, it is interlocking and they're flat. Yeah, it might be. I don't know if it's slate. I don't know if it's slate or cement. I don't know. But the inspector doesn't walk on the roof. And so I was going to call another roofing company to do a roof inspection, but it makes me so nervous on these kind of roofs to, the guy does want an inspection in case there's a cracked tile or whatever. Do you think a drone inspection is, or do you think someone should walk the roof?
That's a great question. I would ask the roof inspector. I would trust their expertise on that. I don't know if you can walk on a slate roof and not crack anything. I'm sure they know. I would ask the inspector.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Ask them the best way to inspect it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I mean, me walking.
I mean, as the agent, as the buyer's agent, and you're trying to guide them along in the correct inspections. I just didn't know, like standard.
I would talk to call an inspector and say, how would you inspect this? And that's how.
Yeah, I had a roofing company that did a tile roof previously, but because this is only 3 years old, it's sort of like, I even would hate to have somebody walk on the roof, even if they recommended it in a way,
Right.
But
I mean, I'd only do it if I had to. I wouldn't want to walk on that. TC says a drone is better. I don't know that they can do everything they need to do by drone. I don't know how they do that. Unless they can use the moisture indicators and detectors to do that. Any other questions on that stuff? Yeah.
Yes, I do. With this particular case, like I just wanted to know, like, say the inspector goes up and a damage happens, maybe a couple of tiles, I don't know. Can the seller ask the buyer to pay for the damage caused, even, I don't know, if they're going with the deal, or or they drop it off? Like, how does it work?
The contract states that the buyer pays for any damages they cause during inspection.
Okay, so
We've had
it
inspectors
doesn't,
go in and make holes in walls and do all kinds of stuff. If there's any damage and the buyer does not close, then they have to pay for it.
okay, and if they do close, then it comes the way it is, right?
Yeah, who cares if they close? It's not seller's problem anymore.
Okay, thank you.
But isn't the inspector also liable because they have insurance too, to cover any damage that they cause?
Probably. But that's between the buyer and the inspector. The buyer is ultimately responsible. They hired the inspector. So that's between the buyer and the inspector at that point. Any other questions or comments?
Ryan, I have a quick question. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. We are currently on the contract. I'm representing a buyer and closing 3/16, but the sellers are not moving out until June 15. So I filled out a post-closing occupancy agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right?
Oh, no, you're asking what to do. Well, the post closing, no. Have an attorney write this.
Yeah, I just had Nishad wrote one up for me for one of my people.
Yeah, have the attorney write it up.
I
Have the attorney
had
write
the
it.
actual, I had the seller, so it really probably wasn't critical for the seller, but he wrote it for the seller. He's the
It's-
seller staying.
Oh,
If you're representing the buyer, it is imperative. In fact, the buyers of that shouldn't have let the sellers have an attorney write that up. The
I know.
buyers, because it protects the buyers, not the sellers. The sellers are the only
Right.
ones who can damage the buyer here. But what I would recommend, since you have the buyer, is that they withhold some of the funds from the sale in case, and have the attorney draw up a lease. So,
Okay.
because otherwise you're counting on the goodwill of these people to move out on time, blah, blah, blah. So,
right.
you need to have an attorney. The buyer needs to pay an attorney to draw up a lease for this. And I would recommend that they withhold, depending on the price of the house and what its value is and all that stuff, 3 months worth of damages, or, enough damages, 3 months worth of rent or whatever, just $5 grand, 10 grand, depending on the value of the house, to make up in case the sellers leave a mess, in case the sellers do whatever, stay too long, whatever. And if they're not out by the 15th of June, was it? They're not out by the 15th of June, then that money goes back to the buyer.
Okay, thank
Excuse me,
you.
Ryan, that brings up a question for me in that regard. So if the seller is not moving out until June, that's kind of like a small or a short lease agreement. But I thought there was already a rider on Form Simplicity for post-occupancy. Isn't that the same thing? Would that not cover that?
No, she still needs that. I don't know if you've ever read that document. All it says is that we're going to come up with an agreement. It's not an agreement. It needs to be much more. It's much more complicated than that, Malvis. That writer says that there is going to be post occupancy, and we're going to come up with an agreement. It does not.
And if we can't, and if we can't, we can dissolve the contract.
Right. It's an out. It's a contingency. If we can't come up with some kind of agreement for post occupancy, then we can get out.
Oh,
And
okay.
everybody goes
Thank
their
you.
separate
Never
way.
mind then.
Yeah. So
Okay,
there's
thank you
a lot more to it. Guys. I know you don't have much choice in this market. This is one of the bad things about a seller's market. You don't have much choice about post occupancy. Please try not to. Try not. I mean, it is headache, especially for your buyers. It's headache. If it's your sellers and you want to give them the best deal possible, then negotiate that. That's fine. But for buyers, it is terrible. It is a mess, and you will have to. If you've ever landlorded anything, you know how it can be getting rid of people. Now imagine you don't have a security deposit, and you don't have anything, and they're very entitled because they're sellers and they're waiting on somewhere to move into. There's a reason they got that 3 months. Is because they're trying to buy something and close by then, and they probably don't have it yet. That's why they're getting 3 months. And so
They're building.
And what are they? Yeah, they're building. Oh, they're building. Great.
They're building their own property. No.
Good luck on that closing date.
Guys, check
That's
Google articles about building supplies right now, and how far behind they are in supply chain for building supplies and everything else, and how builders are having to beg people to hold on so they don't have to redo this. I have seen some of you guys getting better deals from builders, and they're dropping things and giving discounts and stuff to hang in there. So And some of them, other ones, they want to get rid of you so they can sell it for more money because they've got buyers lined up. So, you know, it's a moving target there. And so be careful with builders as well. But those things are taking longer than you think to close, Joy. So you definitely need to have that. I would have your buyers, I would write them an email telling them that they need to get an attorney to write this thing. Tell them in person too, but follow up with an email. They need to get an attorney to write this and to make sure the attorney puts in there some sort of punishment for them staying beyond June 15th, because that is going to probably happen.
And do your buyers have
They're
someplace
not
to
in
go?
a, they're
Do the
not in a
buyers have
rush. My
somewhere to go?
buyers, okay, they're in Georgia and they still own their home in Georgia, so they're not in a rush to move. So that June actually works out for them, or even beyond. But I'll advise them.
But they still should be paid more money and stuff for this. So make sure there is.
They
some
will
sort
be
of-
paying their mortgage. They'll be paying the mortgage. They want us to put that in writing. So, but I will contact the attorney
Perfect.
for my buyers.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Ryan, quick question. Have you heard builders changing their pricing after they go into contract?
Some people have. I haven't. It doesn't seem like it's legal.
Yeah, I know. Somebody told me, and I was like, no. And then like another customer called me, and they were like, "This is Dream Finder. You're in Claremont, Hardwood Marsh, and he's in contract. They're building, and the agent calls him and said, "Hey, we're going to increase the price $38,000." I was like,
it's probably somewhere in that 58-page contract.
That's what
which is why they need an agent to understand this kind of stuff. So learn about this stuff and figure it out. I haven't heard of that.
Me
but
neither.
I'm sure it's some sort of adjusting scale they have on the consumer price index or some nonsense like that. They've got it tied to.
Yeah.
And that is just nonsense.
Ryan, I just came across a situation like that with a new construction. The reason that they're giving the buyer is because of the inflation and increasing materials. And as a result, the buyers have to eat that cost. If they still, and also the increase in the interest rate. So if the buyer want to continue, they have to close at whatever interest rate is at the moment of the closing, when the property is completed and they're ready to close. They're giving some buyers this is the time to just cancel the contract and walk away, or accept these terms.
Well, they're doing rate locks now, so you may want to talk to your to the lender as well as the builder to possibly lock in the rate now while they're building. They're doing that. But in terms of raising the purchase price, I've not seen that. And that's
some
crazy.
of the builders are willing to lock the rate, but not all of them.
I do not doubt that a bit. Lisa's out there in Claremont. She said Dreamfinder is making a waiting list and taking highest buyers and daily increase.
And this specifically new development in the land.
Yeah, it is Dreamfinder.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised they got in their 58, 75 page contracts, whatever, something tied to the consumer price index to protect themselves against inflation. Yes, Angie.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm driving now. I just realized I was unmuted when I coughed. So yeah, another thing to look out for if you're working with buyers for new construction, another great reason why they need us on their side is because of the interest rates going up right now. If they buy a house right now, let's say they qualify for the $400,000 house, but it's not closing for another 6 months, and the interest rates go up like they're supposed to be, and they almost definitely are going to, their monthly payment is going to drastically change. So if you're helping new construction buyers right now, I think it's really important to make sure that they're shopping under their budget, because they could easily see themselves waiting 4 or 5 months for a house and having everything lined up in their lives for having a new house on the state, and then seeing themselves getting priced out of it because of interest rate rises. In addition to the things we're seeing with the prices changing too with builders, and it requiring addendums to be signed saying that, you know, if cost of goods go up, that the price will be increased also. So I've seen that with builders, and the interest rates for sure are going to be changed. You know, when you have a long-term contract like this, you know, we all need to really be careful with that so that our buyers aren't screwed in the end, and, you know, thereby we're screwed, right?
Good point. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Yeah, guys, you need to use all these things as selling points of why they need to drag you to the builder, why you need to go to the builder with them. Use these things, use your knowledge. Did you guys know that the people can raise prices on you later? I bet you they didn't know when they signed. I bet you even if they were your client, they didn't know. And if they were my client, they wouldn't have known because I wouldn't have known. So you got to look through the contract. You got to read through there. I have not seen that in a contract that I can recall, but it makes sense to me. And I'm not surprised that it's in there, especially with them selling houses a year out now. Did you guys see that demand is up, but new builds are down? Does that make any sense? It does not make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is because they can't build because of supply chain, because of lack of workers, skilled workers, and the lack of a supply chain for them to get the I started to call them ingredients, the materials for the house, which are ingredients. So they're having a hard time getting that stuff together, and they're having a hard time finding skilled workers. So that is why everything is slow. They have slowed down construction, even though demand is higher. And that is where you're seeing waiting lists and kicking people off and taking higher offers and raising prices and all that stuff. Why do people do anything that they do? Because they can. And right now they can.
Hi, Ryan.
And again, I don't know if it'll be 5 years or what, but they'll be begging us again and bringing us cookies again to try to sell their houses they can't get rid of eventually. But I don't know when that's going to be. Yes, Martha Elena.
Thank you. If the buyer is a cash buyer in a new construction and the house is gonna finish in 6 months, what about if they pay something, a big amount, or if they, what about the price? Can be increased?
I doubt it unless they want to give all the money right now. It sounds like they don't want their cash in 6 months for the same price. They want to raise it because it's going to cost more to build their house. I don't know, Marceline. That's between them and the builder. Obviously, they won't have to worry about an interest rate increase, but that's something you can negotiate with the builder. That's exactly why they need you to negotiate that with the builder.
Okay.
And say, look, we're cash. We don't want to do that. And they may say, you know what? We won't raise your price if you give us 50% down.
Okay, that's
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
The good news is they're not quite holding you to your backing out of deals as much. The ones who have you in for a house that they sold you 10 months ago for 50 grand less than they could sell it for today. So a lot of times they're not holding you to that. I have seen some of that, letting people out of contracts. So if something happens to them and they can't close, of course, you'd be crazy not to close a house that already has 50 grand in quote unquote equity, but that is what it is. Any other questions or comments?
So I wanted to just ask, right? The buyer that wants to buy new, they had to go along if they want the house, that property, because we are at the mercy of the new build. Their contract is so long and they have all this, wording there that they can raise the price because of material, whatever reason. So if the buyer wants the house so bad and they have the money, they have to pay, right? They are the mercy. It's not like we can say, you know what? No, you can negotiate, because there's no negotiable anything right now with the market that it is, right, that we are in. Correct? Did that make sense?
Yeah, it's tough to negotiate right now. Yeah. But you look out for things like this and you let them know so they're not surprised later when they see the price went up $38,000 and now they've got to back out of the deal because they're not qualified for it or because they just don't want to pay it.
All right.
Anyone else? Any questions or comments?
I just typed a question in.
Shawami. Yeah, it's a showing service. Anybody have any dealings with Shawami? It's a showing service. They'll have other agents show your property for you. They set it up. It's like an app, I guess. I don't know. That's all I know about it. I haven't used it, obviously.
I've used Torly, another one called Torly, Tourlie. I've used Torly with good success.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one. I guess that's the one I've seen on our page. Yeah.
Angie, can you elaborate a little bit more on that, how that works?
Angie, you want to respond to that, how it worked? Do you mind?
Or Ryan, I mean, whoever.
Yeah, so I mean, a year ago I moved from Orlando to Tampa, so I was an agent. So I still have some clients in Orlando. Some of them are close friends that I don't necessarily want to refer off to, or they're fine with working around my schedule to be able to still work with them, or just anytime you're just busy and you can't show a house, and you have a serious client that you want to show a house to. You go on the website, you put in the address and the date and time that your client wants to see it, and they have agents that have signed up to be showing agents. So you can either be a showing agent or the actual buyer's agent, and they match you with an agent who's available at that time in the area to go and show the property for you. As the client's agent, you pay Torley $30. I don't know how much the other agent gets. I think it's around 25 for going and opening one door for you. And basically they just meet them out there, they open it up and they show them around. They don't, they're not there to negotiate or give any other kind of insider information or their own personal opinion. They're there basically just as a showing assistant to open the door, but they are licensed agents. And it's been very convenient and helpful for me on a few occasions in areas that are hard to get to.
So it is a flat fee.
It's a flat fee, yeah. And I guess it's a good thing if you're a new agent, maybe you want to learn areas and you want to, get more experience with showing properties. Maybe it's good to get on there and being a showing agent on there to kind of learn a little bit and at least be making a little bit of cash, so it could work out.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I have a quick question, going to the previous topic.
Okay.
With the delays going on, like I have 3 of my clients, like their closings were supposed to happen early in the year. Now they're pushed to April. So they were pre-approved last year when they got into the contract, and I believe their pre-approval is no good now. So with the increase in mortgage rates, and because I'm a newer agent, I'm not aware of this. Does their pre-approval change if they reapply?
Well, the pre-approval doesn't guarantee them anything
Okay.
unless it's backed up by. It needs to be reapproved. They need to be reapproved at some point.
Because the builders in the area, most of them have been asking like 5-10% deposit, and that money is online. Say, I'm just asking, like giving like a hypothetical example. If they don't requalify, I don't know how to rephrase it. If they don't get the same amount pre-approval, or like if the same amount is not approved at closer to the time of closing, then what happens? Is the builder entitled to keep the deposit, unlike like the F-bar where they basically can't? I don't know how
it depends on the paperwork from the builder. Check that out, but there should be some sort of financing. If they don't qualify, then they can't buy.
But it's usually like it favors the builder, right? Not the buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
100% of the time, the builder's contract is going to favor the builder for sure.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions or comments? This has been a wonderful meeting.
Thank you, Ryan. You are just the best.
I agree.
Thank you, Ryan.
You are the best to have to go through all our questions. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
This was a very good meeting.
Thank you, Malice. I appreciate it. You guys were awesome. Thank you very much. Any other things that you guys need, let me know in the meantime. Otherwise, I will see you next week. We'll have another awesome presentation. I think that'll be March 2nd, probably. So I will see you guys then. And yeah, March 2nd, right? Because it would be February 30th, but instead it'll be March 2nd. All right. See you guys next week. Enjoy yourselves and go get them. Keep getting them and have your buyer brokerage agreements filled out. I know you don't believe me, but they're good. And I know you're scared, but don't be. Scared people don't make it. Timid agents have skinny kids. Just remember that. Go out there and make some money. Don't be timid. Get people to sign up with you. If they don't want to sign, then they're not going to buy anyway. All right. Bye, guys. And remember, Carissa made you do it. Bye-bye.